நீ என்ன சொன்ன ஒன்றும் சொல்லல. இப்போ வந்து என்ன கலைக்கிற manage it, right? So one of the things that came out. So again we are normalizing it. இன்னொரு ஜெனரேஷனுக்கும் நாங்கள் ஒரு கிஃப்டாக கொடுக்குறோம், right? விளைவுகள் என்ன? What could be possible consequences if you continued going back home and living in that situation?
I would have been repeating what Amma said, and I would have been suffering with it, and my mental health would have been affected, and then I probably would have passed it on to my children as well. So that's the dangerous point that would have happened.
Thank you. And as Amma, நீங்கள் பிள்ளைய சும்மா போய் நீங்கள் அப்படி கதைக்கோணுன்ற கதைக்கையில் நீங்கள் உங்களோட கண்ணோட்டத்தில் பார்க்கக்குள்ள நீங்கள் சொல்கிறது 100% ரைட். ஏன் ரைட் as the first generation?
என்னை பொறுத்தவரையில் because the family unity is important. So if she does anything, leave her husband or anything, that is a shame for the family, and it is the whole social structure is gone. And so that is the reason I put up with my husband. So it is leaving is not a first choice for her. So I think about, what people will be talking, அவள் விட்டுட்டு போயிட்டாள், So that is what the shame and everything. And then I think after a while I got used to it. Why can't she also get used to it? That's the way I was looking at it.
So as first generation, Amma was trying to protect her child. Amma was trying to stop on the நாலு ஆக்கள் என்ன கலைக்க போயினம். Okay, again, யார் அந்த நாலு ஆக்கள் in this? அந்த நாலு பேர். Yes, we all know that நாலு பேர். We all grew up with that நாலு பேர். அதை போடாத, இதை போடாத, அப்படி வை, இப்படி வை. Okay, அந்த நாலு பேர். So Amma was trying to protect her daughter. Her daughter was coming to talk to Amma, but she couldn't get much, and with frustration she left. And the daughter also knows it'll impact her mental health. பிள்ளை இருக்கா? Character இருக்கு. Okay, I was paying attention. So பிள்ளைகளுக்கும் consequences இருக்கு. So next character story here. Hello sir. எனக்கே பணம் வந்துட்டு. Okay, all right. Okay, எவ்வளவு தாங்குறீங்க நீங்க? Okay, all right. So நீங்க அப்படி கதைக்கக்குள்ள how did you feel as a character?
கல்லானாலும் கணவன், புல்லானாலும் புருஷன். பொம்பளை புகையில விரிச்சா போச்சு, பொம்பளை சிரிச்சா போச்சு. நாங்கள் அந்த மாதிரி தான் வாழ்ந்த நாங்கள். எனவே இவ வந்து நான் எங்களோட உள் விவகாரங்களை, எனக்கு மனசுக்கு முறையில் உள்ள விஷயங்களை வெளியில் சொல்லப்படாது. எந்த அக்காவாக இருக்கலாம், அப்பராக இருக்கலாம், யாருக்கும் சொல்லப்படாது. எனக்கு பொல்லாத கோபம் வரும். நான் ஒரு கிழமை என்று சொல்கிறேன், இவருக்கு அக்காவை சொல்ற ஒரு மாதத்து முதலே சொன்னேன். அப்போ நான் ஒரு பொய்யன்ன்றது எனக்கு வடிவாக தெரியும். ஆனால் மனுஷி என்ற கற்பை காப்பாற்றணும்.
அந்த கண்ட்ரோல் எலிமெண்ட், சேவிங் ஃபேஸ், பிள்ளை செஞ்சாலும் ஒத்துக்கொள்ள மாட்டேன். ஏனெண்டா அது என்னன்னு சொல்லுவோம், நான் முக்கியம், ஈகோ. எஸ், உங்களுக்கு எப்படி இருந்ததுமா?
எனக்கு கொஞ்சம் கஷ்டமாக தான் இருந்தது. நான் என் கேரக்டர் அப்படி இருந்தபடியாக செய்ய வேண்டிய நிலைமை. பட் இஃப் உண்மையான என்னட்ட கேட்டிங்கன்னா, மேரேஜ் இஸ் அ 2-way ப்ராசஸ், நாட் அ 1-way டிராஃபிக். ஸோ நாங்கள் என்னத்துக்கு அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணுறோம் என்று தெரிஞ்சு கொண்டு we have to adjust. சும்மா எனக்கு விருப்பம் நான் அட்ஜஸ்ட் பண்ணால் he doesn't know why I am adjusting, I don't know why he is adjusting, ரெண்டு பேரும் ஒரு தலைமுழுதான். But if we know and understand and we know why we are doing it, both have to put their effort. அங்கேயும் வந்து மிஸ்டர் ரைட்டும் இல்லை, மிஸ்ஸஸ் ரைட்டும் இல்லை. We have to become that. So that is my understanding and the experience that I've gone through.
Thank you, Ma. Thank you. All right, applause, please. Right, all the characters so far. Thank you. Opana, Manantharan, the Kadakarathukku. Okay, very quickly. We come from a very rich culture. I'm very proud to be a Sri Lankan Tamil woman, particularly second generation in India. I know what my parents have gone through to come to a country. So my father, now retired, engineer, coming in through the point system, or 30-40 years ago, அவர் இங்கே வந்து வேலை எடுத்து and the amount of how to settle in here and பிள்ளைகளை பார்த்து and doing all of that stuff. Like most people in this room. அப்படியா? Okay. The thing about the long established Tamils in Nanda who came through the point system are they are professionals. They have to behave a certain way. வெளியாலையும் சொல்ல இயலாது, உள்ளுக்களையும் வச்சுக்கொண்டு அதில் இருந்தும் விளைவுகள் வரலாம் and perhaps வந்திருக்கு. Lots of nods in the room right now. Okay. சொல்லுங்கம்மா, ஏதாவது வருதா? On the spot. And TWDG, ஏதாவது வருதா?
I think a lot of issues that happen in our generation or even the later generation, the women back at home hardly had any rights or the government support. And also they were not earning as much as their husbands. Usually in our generation it is the man who was the breadwinner mostly. And because of that, and because the culture back at home did not support a woman, I mean, you saw how the daughter came and complained to the mother, and mother said, I had to go through all this, so what is the big deal? You'll get used to it. So that was the mentality. There was no support for a woman to leave the family and with an abusive husband and go on her own. But a lot of people after coming here is that in this country, women have as a man, and the government itself is very supportive of the woman, and if she's going through an abusive relationship, the government is actually supporting the woman to leave the family and fight. And the most important thing what the women don't realize is the effect that has on the children. They sometimes think that they are making a big sacrifice for the children's sake. ஒரு வீட்டில் இருக்கிறோம், ஒரு குடும்பமாக இருக்கிறோம், என்ன உலகமங்களை ஒரு மகிழ்ச்சி நடக்குது. பட் தே டோன்ட் ரியலைஸ் த சைக்காலஜிக்கல் டேமேஜ். அவர் பிள்ளைகளை அடிக்கிற இல்லை தானே, என்ன தானே அடிக்கிறவர், அப்போ அதை பற்றி பரவாயில்ல, நல்ல அப்பா. பட் staying in an abusive relationship absolutely affect your children's well-being, mental well-being, which will have long effect on them and their life. So please remember.
Thank you. That's going to be a segue into this relationship because thank you. அதுலேயும் ஒரு பேக் ஸ்டோரி இருக்குது. And we can talk about what happened in Sri Lanka. And poor could be one of the factors. We have a patriarchal community. அப்படின்னா நாங்கள் அப்பா பார்த்து தான், அப்பா is the breadwinner, அப்பா is the leader. Nothing wrong with that, as long as it's a healthy relationship. And the respect, cultural lens la paatha, respect plays a big part. Respect for elders, as long as that power doesn't get exploited. Other than kudala karikram. So healthy relationships, particularly with the second generation, இப்படி இருக்கிறார், இந்த நேரம் சிறந்து விழுறாரு, அப்படி ஒன்று சொல்ல தேவையில்ல, பிள்ளைக்கு விளங்குது. ஏனென்றா he or she has exposure into the Western space. But then, unfortunately, that parent who is the one who is shouting and things like that, the complaint becomes, நீ பிள்ளைய சொல்லி கொடுக்குற, நீ brain wash பண்ணுற, நீ பிள்ளைய thoughts-ஆ நீ மாத்துற. Not necessarily the case. அதில் இருந்தும் misunderstanding வரலாம். And this is some of the things that we're seeing in terms of impacts in children, because children then do not respect that particular parent. Then the generational gap இன்னமும் increase பண்ணலாம். And to some extent, அதில் இருந்தும் விளைவுல இருக்கும், which will touch base, but very quickly, what was happening for you guys?
எனக்கு அவ்வளோ அனுபவம் இல்லை நிறைய வாழ்க்கையில். ஆனால் இந்த கேரக்டரை பொறுத்த வரைக்கும் ஐ திங்க் சதீஷ் வந்து தன் மனைவி நல்ல ஹாப்பியாக வச்சுருக்கணும், அழ விட்டுறக்கூடாது எப்போவும் ஹாப்பியாக வச்சுருக்கணும்னு சொல்லி அந்த எப்படி சொல்ற ஒரு தனக்குன்னு ஒரு ஸ்டாண்டர்ட்ஸ் இல்லாமல் அதை மெஞ்சி கீழே போகிற மாதிரி ஒரு கேரக்டர். ஸோ அதை அப்ரிஷியேட் பண்ணாத ஒரு மேனகா ஒரு ஆள். ஆனால் அதை தாண்டி அப்படி அதை ஸோ இப்போ ஆண்டி சொன்ன மாதிரி அந்த குடும்பம் பிரிஞ்சிடக்கூடாதுன்னு சொல்லி சதீஷ் தான் இதில் பிடிச்சி வச்சு கொண்டு நிற்கிற மாதிரி அவன் ஹாப்பியாக வச்சுருக்கணும் சமுதாயத்துக்காகன்ற மாதிரி ஒரு இருந்தது. அப்போ ஆண்களுக்கும் இதே பிரச்சனைகள் இருக்கும்ன்றது வெளிப்படுத்துகிற மாதிரி இருந்தது.
I don't understand my character too much. I'm very opposite. Again, no experience. On a வீட்ல பார்க்க I feel like அந்த ஜெனரேஷனுக்கு எல்லாம் இந்த கத்துறதெல்லாம் normal ஆயிடும். So if I was to think of my character, I'd say the coping mechanism னு சொல்லலாம். இப்ப அவ கத்தும் போது நாங்க கத்தினா திருப்பி கத்த மாட்டீனோம். அந்த பயத்திலே கத்தலாம், you know. That's my assumption. You know, அம்மா விட்டாது தானே. ஒருவாட்டி I think one more thing எங்கட வீட்ல சொல்லக்கூடாது வளர்க்கணும். அந்த சண்டை பிடிக்க சும்மா அந்த பிள்ளைகளுக்காக தான் இருக்கணும், இல்லாட்டி டிவோர்ஸ் எடுத்து விடாது. That's like a way of warning. Like இப்படி செஞ்சா டிவோர்ஸ் பண்ணிடுவேன் ரெண்டு பேரும் சண்டை பிடிக்கிறது. So I think yeah, for our generation it's normal. So more tempted to kind of follow that because we don't understand that it's actually wrong to be shouting all the time and you can calmly tell someone what the problem is. So yeah.
Thank you, ma'am. Right. இப்போ நாங்கள் சயின்ஸுக்கு போயிட்டோம் இப்போ. Okay, so what are the red flags in it? So before we jump into red flags, just very quickly on you guys want to turn around. Traditional gender roles, as I said, patriarchal in our community. Influence of extended family. Extended family vandadu idula inda akka and already vandittu adalaim prachanayal. Okay. Stigma around divorce. என்ன செய்கிறது இப்போ again அந்த நாளாக்கள் என்ன சொல்லுவீனம் and also அது ஒரு த்ரெட்டாக யூஸ் பண்ண டிவோர்ஸ் பண்ணிட்டு போயிடுவேன், டிவோர்ஸ் பண்ண ஓகே போங்கப்பா. ஆனால் பிள்ளைகள் மாட்ட சம்டைம் ஷோ டிவோர்ஸ் பண்ணி தொலைங்களான்னு இல்லாட்டி விடுங்களேன். ஓகே. And then financial stress dependency, again first generation settlement issues, adla irundhu varalam. Language barriers, isolation. So particularly if someone is working and particularly usually first generations wives tend to be more dependent, they tend to be the one taking care of the children, adla irundhu not having that level of exposure, dependency. Mental health components can also happen, and I'm going to go into this couple here.
So I think my character has dealt with this for quite a long time. So she's just trying to gain back some, I guess, normalcy in her life. So she really wants to go out and just have a time for herself, which is why she was so adamant about it. So I think that's something that she's been working towards for quite a while. So yeah.
I mean, let's be real here. Like the scene that we did is much more benign than what would probably happen, right? I don't think in a proper abusive relationship that the wife would be able to make it out the front door without like much. It would probably get pretty ugly. With that much, I mean, my character was just like layering, like this idea, like trust issues, like attacking her competence. And I think that it's very easy with the power imbalance to just be able to have one person just constantly, and it's like, I think, I don't know the Sanskrit word, but it's like the thing samskar, something like undigested emotion. Like I don't feel like in an abusive relationship that, in this case it's the husband, but it can be the wife. They have no motivation or initiative to deal with that inward, so they deal with that outward. All these explosive and like, it's you're the problem, and they don't want to focus on themselves, and that comes out as very, it comes out like that. I think it's much more easier for us to show when like the husband's like sitting there with the sarong and with the newspaper, and the wife is just like, everyone can see how silly he's being, but when it's real life, it's much more like you're paralyzed, because you're like, what do you do in that situation? But yeah.
ஓகே சயின்ஸ் நீங்கள் ஆல்ரெடி சொல்லிட்டீங்க. உங்களுக்கு நீங்கள் சொல்லிட்டீங்க கண்ட்ரோல், ஈகோ, சேவிங் ஃபேஸ்ன்னு நீங்கள் சொல்லிட்டீங்க. ஓகே பர்ஹாப்ஸ் consequences could be mental health and anga control, suspicion, putting them down, constant theme irundhathu inga, putting them down, blaming them, to some extent wives beginning to doubt themselves, idu seriya illaya na sonnadhu seriya illaya and the doubt. So generally or erosion of self confidence, slowly erosion of self confidence, competence levels, these are some of the signs nanga paakalam. To some extent extreme apokula, what do you think could happen?
In this the skit that I was in, like the extreme like I don't know, like they'll be playing frisbee with plates and stuff. Like it'll be like much more. It might turn physical. It might be a situation of leveraging finances, leveraging emotional connections. Like if you do this, I'll cut support with your family. If you do this, I won't let you do this stuff. Yeah, I mean, it's yeah, I guess it'd be getting quite ugly with extreme circumstances.
Extreme circumstances, first generation இதுவா இருக்குமே.
First generation extreme circumstances. It could be physical abuse, could be, it can happen. And I think it's, we are talking about the 55 and over, so people are that age now, and they get isolated and they just can, I don't know, I don't think people are, enough to leave the family or the situation. But I think I can see more and more people are sort of talking out a little bit now. So that's what I can think of. But there are physical also can happen, but I don't think, I haven't heard anything now. Yeah, thanks.
சில அநேகமாக குடும்பங்களில் இந்த பிரச்சனை நடக்கைக்குள்ள பிள்ளைகள் பாதிக்கப்படுது. அப்போ அந்த எதிர்கால சந்ததி என்றது தான் முக்கியம். இவர் 2 பேரும் உண்மையில் ஏதோ ஒரு இதில் சொன்ன மாதிரி தங்களுடைய அந்த முதல் நாள் காதலிச்சு கல்யாணம் செய்தால் அந்த காதலிக்கைக்குள்ளே இருந்த சந்தோஷமான நினைவுக்கு போகணும். 50 வயது 60 வயது என்றாலும் அந்த நாளுக்கு போய் அந்த பாடலே முதல் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் அந்த நிலைமைக்கு போனால் திரும்ப அந்த நினைவோட வாழலாம். அது இல்லை என்றால் பிள்ளைகளுக்கு பாதிக்கும். அந்த ஒரு நீயனான ப்ரோக்ராமில் ஒரு பிள்ளை ஒன்று சொல்லுது, எங்களோட அம்மா அப்பா சண்டை பிடிச்சு கொண்டு இருந்த ஒவ்வொரு நாளும் நாங்கள் அழுத நாங்கள். அப்போ இப்படி சண்டை பிடிக்காமல் விட்டு பிரிஞ்சிருந்தால் நாங்கள் சந்தோஷமாக வாழ்ந்திருப்போம். அப்போ எனவே அந்த பிரிவினை தான் பிள்ளைகளுக்கு பாதகமாக இருக்கும்ன்றது ஒரு பிள்ளையாக முடியும். ஆக ஒவ்வொருத்தரவன் தாங்க டோர்ச்சர் தான் என்றால், சித்திரவதை தான் என்றால், அதில் இந்த வேல்யூஸ் குடும்பமாக இருக்கிறது தான் என்றது அவசியம் இல்லை. அதை உடைச்சி போட்டு போகிறது தான் நல்லது. என்ன பிள்ளைகளுக்காக பிள்ளைகள் தாயோடு தகப்பனோடு அமைதியாக வாழணும். ஆனால் அந்த பிள்ளை வளரும் வரைக்கும் சண்டை பிடிச்சு கொண்டே இருப்பினம் என்றால் அந்த பிள்ளைகள் இந்த வாழ்க்கை துடைஞ்சிடும். நல்ல பிரஜைகளாக வாழணும் என்றால் அது நாங்கள் அதன் உடல் உண்டை நாங்கள் கற்பனை பண்ணி கொண்டிருக்க டாக்டர்ஸ், இன்ஜினியர்ஸ், அக்கௌண்டன்ட்ஸ் அல்லது ஒரு ப்ரொஃபஷனல், அது இலங்கையில் இருக்கிறது கூட. அது பிள்ளைகள் விரும்புகிறதை செய்ய விடணும். பிள்ளைகளுக்கு எந்தவித இடையூறும் கொடுக்கக்கூடாது. பிள்ளைகள் இயல்பாக தாங்களை ஒரு கட்டாக்காளி மாடு என்று சொல்கிறது. கட்டாக்காளியாக தானே அவற்றை கொண்டு தானே போய் எங்கேயாவது விளாத்தி போட்டு பிறகு வடிவ புத்தகம் படித்து பாஸ் பண்ணி மெடிக்கல் ஃபேக்கல்ட்டி போனவையெல்லாம் அநேகமாக சிலர் தற்கொலை செய்கிறது கூடவே இருக்குது இலங்கையில். எல்லாமே புத்தக பூச்சிகளாக தான் இருக்கிறோம். வெளியில் போய் வெளிக்கிட்டால்தான் ஒரு அவமானத்தை, அவதூறை, அதில் எல்லாம் எதிர்கொண்டு அதை இப்படி நாங்கள் சமாளிக்கலாம். துன்பத்தை அனுபவிக்கணும், அவதூறை கேட்க வேணும். வெளியில் போய் அடிபட்டு என்னைக்குள்ளதான் ஒரு இரும்பை நெருப்பில் போட்டு அந்த உருக்க செய்கிற மாதிரி அது எந்த உள்ள வாசல் தாண்டப்படாது, இந்த கடைக்கு போகக்கூடாது, அப்படி என்ன நினைக்கிறதுல தவறு. ஃப்ரீ சுதந்திரம் தான் அதை தீர்மானிக்கும்.
Okay, now to the audience. Ready? Yeah. Yep. Okay. Suspicious. Are these some of these things that you generally see either through, doesn't have to be your own experience, could be with friends and things like this? Is this quite normal? Anyone?
Yeah?
The question is, some of the things that's been noticed here, some of the themes, the control, the putting person down, blaming them, are these something that's quite normal in our community?
I was talking to one of my friends today, talking about the same topic, about how mainly you see women in our community that going through that, even some men too, like it's normalized in the sense you come back from work and say, what have you done all day today? It's just like, bring me memories. It's pretty sad. And even like, their housework's never been recognized as a work, and even women felt like I'm not worth enough. So he's bringing money because wealth is the most important thing. Money, if you bring money, you're the most powerful person. So I'm still like overwhelmed by everything I just saw now and realize how much we have to change. And I think this is a beginning. And yeah, let's keep the discussion going.
Fail. He can give certificate. She can give certificate. There's more than man and woman. There's two characters in it. So even friends. Sometimes friends have a lot of conflict and fighting. So, personally, I don't mind telling you, we have opposite characters. Interests are opposite. So we avoid conflicts because both are completely different interests. That's also in a way good because no discussion. Accept that she has her own interest and she accepts me my own interest. We don't have much fun, but no conflict. Sometimes comes, but it's not very serious.
Good on you guys for this doing this. It's great. The biggest challenge we have is as we are not raised to bring up as children learning that you need to put yourself in the other person's shoe. Would you like to be treated like that? So I think that's a basic thing that parenting. I keep talking about that to parents, fathers, mothers, mainly mothers, to say that you need for them to understand. If you did, what you're doing, would somebody did that to you, how would you feel? And I think there's another problem. I think we all have our egos, don't want to accept the mistakes we made, right? We always want to say we are right. So I think those are two things. If you can take that into account from a young age, maybe that will help in how you deal with conflicts or issues. Because everybody is different. All personalities are different. I could sit here and say, oh no, that's fine. I mean, he was just saying it, but it doesn't matter. But somebody else would go to the extent of suicide. So somebody say, ayyo, idukku maakal ipdi seiyinama. Now that's what I hear most of the time. So what's the big deal? And unfortunately, actually, women are the worst enemies of women. Okay, because they do gossip a lot. So women cannot find the support from other women to say, I'm sorry, it's not my mom, like mom and daughter relationship matram illa. It's about even telling your sister, your friend, anybody, because you're scared, they might use that against you and judge you. Okay, so hopefully this message does go out to people who try and think before they actually start talking. Thank you.
Hi. Well done to all the actors here and the message. So, all of us in this room living through different challenges, so I have to accept, it is a learning process for all of us, and married for 22 years, so every day I'm learning. But I think we have important people in this room. We need adjustment. This is an important topic, but this comes at the end of the life cycle where it doesn't matter about the age. I know the target market is different here, but I'm father of 2 girls. I went to a boys' school. My wife went to a convent, so girls and boys' school only here. Back home, living in Australia, British-driven culture. In Australia also we have boys and girls school. So I sent my girls to the girls-only school thinking that's the safest ever. But if you ask me now, my second daughter is doing HSC, I would have done it differently. I would have sent them both to the co-ed school, because it's very important the girls and boys expose them early. I couldn't talk to a girl when I was growing up until probably when I was 16 or 17. You speak to a girl, that girl becomes, by default your girlfriend. Very useless system, but that's the system I grew up in. And as a result, whether you like the person or not, the society thinks, okay, you are a boyfriend and a girlfriend. So I think, in this room, we have important people. As a country, we need to move on, even in Australia. We need to break this boys and girls nonsense, and we have to change all the school system to a co-ed school system, so they're exposed early. And frankly, I have worked for a lot of global organizations. When I started my career, 90-95% of my leadership team were men. But I'm proud to say there's a change in shift, and I'm reporting to a lot of women lately. So society is moving on. Where I started, I'm in my late 40s. I see a massive shift in accepting women, and I'm father of 2 girls, so I'm actually encouraging them to stand up for their own rights and speak up. And one of the things I'm expecting or teaching them is to forget about the big degrees, stand up, be brave enough to defend yourself. Of course, we do have arguments at home too. We have feelings, But having said that, as I said, we both learn from each other. We sometimes dominate each other, but that's the way life is. But working out is not the solution. There are ways to work out. If you're working for an employee, the employer is going to expect to do work, and if the employee is saying, can you do X, Y, Z, you can't just walk out of the job. You need to work around it. So my kind of request is to break this boys and girls nonsense, and maybe embrace the entire society to live together. Thank you.
Okay, thank you very much. All right, a few things are coming here. One is on the continuum of power and control. We talked about the possibility of things get too much, and that might lead to suicide. And those things do happen in extreme cases. We also spoke about, or you'd kindly put out there around needing support, women needing support, the community not necessarily seeing it as gossip, and saying, oh, did you hear about so-and-so, instead of that. So that means that if someone is going through something, they can actively go and speak to someone without the fear of, back to the gentleman at the back. You were talking about the systems and within our community. Yes, there is a segregation even within our community, and that also comes from a place of fear. A lot of our way of looking at things, unfortunately, comes from a place of fear of the child failing, fear of us failing, fear of what other people will think, fear of rejection. And one of the points that you put out there was also how you are with your girls. that male role modeling. If that male role modeling is very healthy, if you sit with them and you negotiate with them, you're teaching them to negotiate, not just at home, but in their relationship and also at their workplace. So to a large extent, definitely we can change the system, and this is what the ladies and the men here are having this really important conversation, but the conversation also starts at home, which is what everyone is doing as well. So thank you for bringing that to light as well. Back to your story.
எங்களோட ட்ராமான்ற பேர் வந்து சொல்லிச்சுன போது தெரியல, அதுக்கு பேர் கூண்டுக்கிளி. உங்களுடைய பேர் வந்து அழகி. பார்த்தாலே வடி வத்தம் இருக்கிறா. என்னுடைய பேர் என்னோட சொன்னீங்க கேட்க இல்லை. அறிவு அழகன். அப்போ என்ற மாதிரி இது ஒரு சின்ன ஒரு சிம்பிளான ஒரு டைப். என்னென்னு சொன்னால் டொமினேட்டிங், பிகாஸ் நான் தான் அதில் ஒரு ஆம்பளை பிரெட் வின்னர். ஸோ எனக்கு ஒரு நல்ல ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் சர்க்கிள்ஸ் இருக்குது. எனக்கு வேலையும் என் ஃப்ரெண்ட்ஸ் தான் எனக்கு முக்கியம். வீட்டை வந்தோடனே எனக்கு வீட்டை வந்து எல்லாம் தொல்லை தான் எனக்கு. அப்போ அது ஒரு 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 டிப்பிக்கல் எக்ஸாம்பிள் என்று நினைக்கிறேன். தேங்க்யூ.
உங்கள்கிட்ட அடிப்பேன்.
அவர் எனக்கும் சேர்த்து கதைச்சிட்டார்.
உண்மையா ஹஸ்பண்ட் வைஃபா?
both of them are husband and wife. So வீட்டில் என்ன நடக்குதுன்னு நிற்க பாவமாக இருக்குது.
Nice. Okay. All right. Thank you. With all your stories, what you have highlighted is it's one of the most difficult topics to highlight, and it's one of those topics in our community is full of silence and shame. நாங்கள் இதை பற்றி கதைக்க மாட்டோம். And part of it is shame as well. And the way it was highlighted in different skits, it was beautiful. The depth irundhathu. You just hit the points in terms of the isolation, the kura pidikkirathu, the tatti vekkirathu, and katrathu, and threaten pandrathu, and suspicion, and the control. Ellam elements than power and control nu solluvam. That's domestic violence. So that doesn't mean that now நாங்கள் வீட்டுக்கு போய் okay look at each other's partner and go domestic violence relationship இருக்கிறப்பா இல்லை அப்படின்னு இல்லை, நான் அது சொல்ல வேற இல்லை. So in terms of healthy interactions in a relationship, out of 6 interactions 5 positive-ஆக இருக்கணும், 1 நெகட்டிவாக இருக்கலாம். இன்னும் சைலன்ஸாக இருக்கிறீங்க, கொஞ்சம் பாசிட்டிவாக சொல்லுங்களேன். Okay, so basically under 5, it's not necessarily 5 and every single day 5 positive interactions இருக்கணும் இல்லை இல்லை, but generally or 4 to 5 to 6 இந்த நேரம் நெகட்டிவாக இருந்தால் then it's an unhealthy relationship. Would you like to say anything? நீங்கள் how would I get here now?
So I think, as the uncle pointed out, it's like we compare ourselves or our relationships to our parents. Amma was able to tolerate it, so Amma went through that, so I should be able to manage this. Right? So I think that's most of the time, that's a big thing in our society. We compare, so our parents, we compare. But I think this generation, okay. But I think, so I have 2 boys, and they, but their outlook in life is different. So they now stand that if there's an argument, they think Amma needs protection. Not that my husband is horrible, but if he starts screaming, because as a man, when you start talking, you will raise your voice and everything. So the voice now will say, Appa, shush. So that's a good thing. So I know that they will be better men than our fathers or forefathers. I'm not putting down all the men here, but generally, except by someone said that men are barking all the time, right? So the voice is the power. So hopefully going forward, the generations will respect women more. And அந்த 4 பேர் யாருன்னு தெரிஞ்சா எனக்கு சொல்லுங்க ப்ளீஸ்.
Just wanted to make sure that when we keep talking about abuse, sometimes there are healthy arguments within a couple. Sometimes you use this word abuse and everything becomes an abuse. I think for a man to come and say, "Kaalamalendhu iravu mattum ivvula kashtappattu naan vandirukren," is a common thing. I don't think 50-60% of men would say that. And the wife would shout back, "Naan summa irundha inge irundha kaalame irundha." That is also common. So you have to be sure that when does this change into an abuse? So we have to be careful. Sometimes there's so much of this is used, then the normal healthy relationship now is the question, "Ani any abuse pandringa?" Normally it wouldn't come. So we just need to be careful about that. That's one thing. The second thing is when you want to then get out of the relationship, people tell, "Ayyo, voottu eduthukondu poduvaanga." That's one thing. And நாங்கள் 800 பேரை கூப்பிட்டு அந்த ஹாலில் லாமண்டாஜோட கல்யாணம் வச்சுட்டு இப்போ பிரிஞ்சா இந்த அரம்பங்களை பற்றி கதைப்பினேன். You focus on the most insignificant things rather than focusing on couples' healthy relationship. The third thing, the last final thing I want to say is the mothers play a major role in modeling a son to respect women. I just think that is extremely important. And that is something I'm so sorry about the Sri Lankan mothers. You have to excuse me, but you all don't do that. நீங்கள் பிள்ளைக்கு தேத்தண்ணி கோப்பிய படியில் அப்பன் குடிக்கிறீங்களா, ராசா மைலோ குடிக்கிறீங்களா, குஞ்சு குடிக்கிறீங்களா, நீங்கள் கழுவ தேவையில்லை, நான் கப்பை கழுவி வைக்கிறேன். நீங்கள் இப்படி செய்தால் this boy is going to go into a relationship and will sleep and expect someone to bring tea, someone to wash. You have just modeled these boys into it. Sorry, I see that at my home, and I just think it's very important to make sure that you bring up kids and particularly teaching the children to respect women. I think that is something has to come from the mother and the parents have to do that, I think.
Sponsor.
That's pretty true. Another thing, those are all good points. And just one other thing is just that I hear a lot of this saying thrown out a lot that if a couple is fighting a lot, that's a good thing because when the relationship is like ended or is about to end when it's quiet, and it's like because like if you're going through I feel like that's like a bit of a hyperbole. I think yes, arguments mean that you're communicating in some form, and that means that you, in one way or another, you're getting through challenges instead of being quiet about it and not communicating through it. I don't feel like an argument is your main source of the main medium of having a conversation. I think sometimes, I find like in my relationships, I'm sorry, I do have relationships, that there's, even if I haven't learned abusive tendencies, there are certain like small little microcosms of bad behavior that I have learned in my life that I'm like have to weed out, like guilt tripping, saying I've done this for you, I've done that for you, and this is how you treat me. Or if I say having viewing a relationship as a transactional thing, you do this and I do this for you and you do this for me. I think sometimes, even though we don't have it at the forefront of our minds, in a healthy relationship, it's important to at the very least have these conversations in a way that's not like yelling, or you come home from the day, or you come at every criticism about your behavior in a relationship as an attack. If someone says, "Oh, look, I haven't really appreciated how distant you are. I know you're working hard at work, but you haven't given time to me or the family." You shouldn't be like, okay, oh, so you're saying this, how hard I work for you, how, and then I think before you do that, I think the pause before you say something back is super important, because that pause can be the difference between having a long argument and having a very a meaningful conversation that actually ends up with a more healthy relationship and a more happier relationship. I think that it's, I feel like maybe this is not as well known in this community, but I know online that people always say resentment is like the main the main indicator that a relationship is going to end. So like if you feel like even if it's not an abusive relationship, hey, look, as soon as I think about this individual, yes, they're my partner. If I think, oh, but they do this, they do this, they do this, I hate when they do this. If you find yourself like resenting them, I think that's something that we really need to, that's an indication that there needs to be more room for communication. Because no one wants to be stuck in a bad relationship. And especially if you're married, I hope that you're planning to stay with this person for the rest of your life. So it's important to focus on that.
Thank you, sir. Okay. Yes.
No, I just want to say DV or domestic and family violence is not necessarily between partners. It can be father and children, or parents and children can, parents can abuse children, children can abuse older parents, and so it can be everything, we always talk about partners, so, so it could be anything, and children and all kind of abuse, so you have to be older. Now we have older parents, and you have to be careful with that as well, that is also become abusive, yeah.
Great point.
With your permission, right? Can you define domestic violence? Can we define it? Certainly. So there are layers, there are sort of levels. We do things, say things without understanding that's domestic violence. Right? So where do we draw the line? How do we expose everyone to say you're stepping over the lines now? Yeah, so what is normal, what is not normal? So this is really, it's like a dog chasing a bus. It catches the bus, what is now? So where do we stand? Exactly.
Anyone wants to answer that? No? Okay, up.
Domestic violence means is hitting somebody physically or assaulting, giving threat to the person like that. And I'm a legal person, and for that thing, they ring 30 and call the police, and it will be recorded as criminal offense, and it will be 2 years jail and 5,000 penalty, like that. It's there. There'll be a cold day in the courts, and you have to appeal in local courts and everything. Any physical violence is assault, right? That's what I can say. I threatened my husband several times, I'm going to ring the police, but I have never done it because he's much older and all that. I know in our community, so many people are suffering from psychiatric problem. So paranoia or paranoid or whatever, schizophrenia, whatever. In every family, 1 in 5 or 1 in 3 is suffering from mental problem. Other people don't understand and fighting, and it's in courts, and subsequently when there are 2 years AV order, a pre-attack violence order, in the meantime they have to live separately, and somebody finds another one, or parents find. So the family breaks up and the children are affected. In the long run, when you think about it, 30-year-old child, 35, even they are affected when the parents are broken. So that's what I can say, something I can talk more about, but at this point I stop.
ஒரு பாடல் ஒன்று இருக்கு, சினிமா பாடல், உலகம் 1000 சொல்லட்டுமே உனக்கு நீதான் நீதிபதி. அப்ப என்னுடைய செயல், என்னுடைய நடத்தையை பற்றி வேறு எவரும் தீர்ப்பு சொல்றதுக்கு அனுமதி கொடுக்கக்கூடாது. எல்லாம் நான் செய்கிறது சரி என்றது முதல் தன்னம்பிக்கை இருக்க வேணும். அது கணவனாக இருக்கலாம், மனைவியாக இருக்கலாம், யாரையும் இருக்கலாம். உலகம் 1000 அந்த 4 பேர் என்ற கதை வந்தது. அந்த 4 பேரை பற்றி நாங்கள் கவலைப்படவே தேவையில்லை. என்னை பற்றி நான் எடுக்கிற தீர்மானம் பற்றி எதையும் நான் தான் நீதிபதி, எனக்கு நானே, உனக்கு நீயே நீதிபதி. அது எங்களுக்கு ஒரு மந்திர சொல். அது குடும்பங்களில் கட்டாயம் இருக்கணும். மற்றது குடும்பம்ன்றதில் நாங்கள் கட்டாயம் வருஷத்துக்கு முதல் வள்ளுவர்கிட்டையே போகலாம். யூனிட்டி அண்ட் ஸ்ட்ரகிள், ஐக்கியமோ போராட்டமோ, ஒரு சிநேக முரண்பாடு. இது ஊடலும் கூடலும் இதான் இந்த இன்சொல், இன்முகம், அன்பு, பார்த்து பேசி பழகு, கருணை, இரக்கம், உதவி, செய்நன்றி அறிதல். அப்போ இவ்வளவும் குடும்பத்துக்குள்ளே நாங்கள் வர அந்த வேல்யூஸ், எங்களுடைய விழுமியங்களை, தமிழ் அல்லது பண்பாட்டு விழுமியங்களை பகுத்துண்டு பல்லுயிர் ஓம்புதல், இன்னா சொன்னாரை ஒருத்தல் அவர் நான் நன்னயம் செய்து விடல், அது இருந்தோம்பில் வாழ்கிறது எல்லாம் விருந்தோம்பி வேளாண்மை செய்த பொருட்டே. வள்ளுவர் சொன்னதே நாங்கள் உண்மையில் இன்றைக்கும் கூட ஒவ்வொரு குறளுக்கும் நாங்கள் எங்களோட வாழ்க்கையில் கடைப்பிடிக்கக்குள்ள இப்போது இந்த காலத்துக்கு ஏற்றபடி நாங்கள் கடைப்பிடிக்கலாம். கணவன் மனைவி என்றதை சண்டை பிடிக்க வேணும். அப்போதான் அந்த ஊடல் என்பது கூடலுக்கு ஒரு மிக சந்தோஷமான ஒரு சமாச்சாரமாக அமையும். அது அனுபவத்தில் தெரியும், அனுபவம் காணாது. அப்போ இப்போ காதலில் தான் தோற்றவர் வென்றார். மாணிக்கவாசகர் சொல்றார், தந்தது எந்தனை கொண்டது உண்டனை ஆர்வலோ சதுரர். சிவபெருமான் கேட்கிறேன், நான் என்ன இழந்து விட்டேன், என்ன தந்து விட்டேன், ஆனால் உன்னை கொண்டு விட்டேன். நீ பெரிய முழுமுதல் கடவுளாக இருக்கிற சிவபெருமானே நான் அப்படியே எனக்கு கீழே உணர்ந்துட்டேன். அப்போ யாரடா வென்றார்? ஆர்வலோ சார். மாணிக்கவாசகர் சொல்றார், தோற்றவர் வென்றார். இது காதல் வாழ்க்கைக்குரிய இலக்கணம். அப்போ திருமண வாழ்க்கைக்கு, குடும்ப வாழ்க்கைக்கு, இப்போ சந்திரஹாசன் சொன்ன மாதிரி ராகினி படபட ஒரே சத்தம், சண்டை, சச்சரவு. அவர் ஓ ஓ ஓட்டு தன் வாழ போக, ஆனால் கடைசியில் வந்ததான் வருதான். அதுதான் உலக வாழ்க்கை. அதை நாங்கள் படிக்கிறோம்.
தேங்க்யூ. என்னை பொறுத்தளவில் எனக்கு ஐ ரிமெம்பர் அம்மா சொல்கிறவ, கிவ் ரெஸ்பெக்ட் அண்ட் வின் ரெஸ்பெக்ட். ஸோ நாங்கள் மரியாதை கொடுத்து மரியாதை வாங்கணும். நாங்கள் ஐ கான்ட் எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் சம்படி லைக் நான் அதை செய்யாமல் எக்ஸ்பெக்ட் தெம் டு டூ அண்டது, தட் டசன்ட் ஒர்க். ஸோ அண்ட் தென் it takes time. ஒன்றுமே எடுத்துன்னு தந்து வார இல்லை, எல்லாம் you learn each other's ways of doing things, and you try your best. Each person has to try, because you can't. இதுதான் இப்போ what works for me இந்த கப்பலுக்கு ஒர்க் பண்ணுறது somewhere else it won't work because it's different. So if you understand each other and from there you have your values, you have your principles, same as other person also. So you have to accept also. As much as you want them to accept you, you also have to accept. So never go to change anybody, because that is something you can't do. In the telamaile nan solla valiku adukku nan poi yarein control. So it's like you do your best. The marriage is sollekla, you do your best to the best of your ability. And that the boundary line and all irukku.
ஓகே, இப்போ ஓரளவு நிறைவேற்றி வந்து கொண்டிருக்கிறது. அடுத்ததாக சாப்பாடுகள் பரிமாறப்பட இருக்கிறது.
என்னுடைய இதுவரைக்கும் இருந்த காலத்தில் உலக கண்ணோட்டத்தில் நான் பார்த்தது, திருமணம் அன்றைய கதை கேட்கையும் தனித்தனி நபர், கணவன் மனைவி, கணவன் எப்படி ஃபீல் பண்ணுறாங்க, மனைவி எப்படி ஃபீல் பண்ணுறா. இன்னொரு தீம் இதில் ஒரு சட்டிலாக வந்து எனக்கு நிறையமான இடங்களில் தொடங்குற வந்து உண்ட குடும்பத்தை ஆக்கள் தானே, என்ன குடும்பத்தை ஆக்கள் இப்படி, ஓ அப்பாண்ட குடும்ப ஆக்களோட கதைக்காது, பிள்ளைகள சொல்கிறோம் அம்மாட குடும்ப ஆக்களோட கதைக்காது, அதே இப்படியான ஆக்கள். அப்போ இதில் நிறைய வர ஒரு திருமணம் என்ற 2 பேருன்றதை விட 2 குடும்பங்கள் சேர்றன்ற மாதிரி நாங்கள் பார்த்தாலும் அதில் ஒரு நல்ல வெற்றி கிடைக்கும் என்ற மாதிரி நான் யோசிச்சு பார்த்தேன். நான் உறவுகள் என்றது ஒரு மிக முக்கியமான விஷயம். ஒரு பிள்ளைகள் இப்போ நான் வளர்ந்த விதம் மென்டல் ஹெல்த்ன்ற வரைக்கும் நிறைய பேர் இப்போ வீட்டு ஏதாவது கலைக்க முடியல, சரி இந்த மாமா உனக்கு வைப்பாரு நான் சொல்கிறேன். அப்போ இது எல்லாமே ஒரு ஒரு ஆரோக்கியமான ஒரு சமுதாயம், ஒரு ஆரோக்கியமான குடும்பத்துக்கு முக்கியம் என்று நான் நினைக்கிறேன். கூட்டு குடும்பம்.
So I just wanted to say, எல்லாருக்கும் ரொம்ப நன்றி, because Smithra, you were just talking about shame. So I think it's been about 14 years since I left one of those marriages. It was a huge shame up to discuss it, right? This mother and daughter couple, your own amma will not believe you, so it's unlikely that the community will believe you. But Uncle said something really nice about Balwar and Tamil culture and all this. And actually, we very rarely look at Sivan and Sakti of Peerunavelu, And there's a very Tannambike is not really addressed for women. I'm 40. I hope the younger generation has it addressed, but definitely as a 40-year-old woman, we didn't really discuss self-confidence growing up. And very much you get modeled, like the armla kind of knows, like naan dhaan indha vittu armla, right? Naan manusana veetla nikren, aapna na apdi dhaan treat pannuva. You've seen your appa do it, you've seen your grandparents do it. So in a way, the men come a little bit armed with an idea of standards. Someone said standards here, and women come armed with nalla galanda. Even if he's disrespecting you, apdiyavathu try panni ada maariduvar. You know this concept? If you try harder, the other person will respect you. Unfortunately, in my experience, that was not true. So looking back, it's the first Tamil event I've come to in 14 years. And in dissolving the shame around it, I think people who have actually experienced that can have, it's pretty hard, it's even emotional just talking of it, can share that without shame, because it's not your fault. You do not have to work to get respect. You deserve respect because you're human, right? And all the other communications, like I think Uncle said here, there's many communications that happen just because your husband and wife should spend a lot of time together. But there's this kind of thing, maybe the older generation, it's also underpinned by certain values, like, yeah, but I still take care of my medicine, and also, this kind of some other societal code, which I think in our generation, there's an edge to it. There's an edge to it that is incredibly painful and rejecting. So I just wanted to say that it might take a decade, it might take 20 years or something like that, but there's no shame around what happened to you. It is not your fault if that happened to you. Domestic violence or coercive control or otherwise. And especially this thing around financial control. This last couple here, that feeling of needing to beg for, in your situation, after he said no, the next time you're talking with your family, anyone else you might need to commit some funds for, you kind of know inside that this conversation is not going to happen. So financial control is a big thing. So anyway, there's a lot to say on it, but I just want to say thank you for opening the dialogue on this as a Tamil society.
Just a question. There was a good question asked about what was domestic violence. Of course, it's what comes to our mind first is the physical harm, but it is also important, like most of the scripts here today, they were talking about verbal. So it need not be a physical harm for us to call it a domestic violence, but verbal abuse could also be identified as physical abuse. Sorry, domestic violence. The question is, where do we strike a balance? At what point in time does it become a domestic violence when it comes to verbal abuse? My thinking is, of course, everyone gets angry and throw words out, but if it comes to a point where it happens regularly, constantly, then I think that's when a kind of a discussion or an argument could become a domestic violence verbally. So that's my 2 cents. Thank you.
My understanding is it's about starting the conversation, and these guys have achieved that, so well done. You guys have started the conversation, everyone's going to continue the conversation, so back to the gentleman who talked about what is domestic violence. The cycle of power and control, so you're completely right. We focused today more about the emotional abuse, we've talked about the physical abuse, we've talked about financial control, it's intimidation, so all the stuff that the actors here showed, minimizing, denying, blaming, me, and it's your fault, it's not me, the gaslighting, which is basically, so then the person kind of gets a bit confused, no, maybe I'm the problem. So, using male privilege, female privilege, in our community, male privilege is patriarchal. In my generation. Back to the lady in red. Thank you so much, Ma, for sharing. Thank you. You know, you're already breaking it. You're breaking the silence, so thank you. Right, Ma? Yay. Yeah, okay. So economic abuse, financial control, so all the aspects, science and children, as well as perpetrators. We do run a group for men as well. I'm not saying it's only perpetrated by men, it can happen by women as well. Things can change, right? Things can change, and I guess we as a community, we have to obviously go with the Western lens. The Western lens is not working, and I've had this many a conversation through Taram with legal representatives, and there are certain things that need to change that has to make it very, that fits our cultural lens. So this whole thing of, yes, AVO is needed, yes, we need to stop the abuse, yes, we need to stop the violence, it's extreme, but it also long-term impacts irukuma, as you talked about, okay? So in that family, especially if let's say for example, the mother is dependent and she's not working enough, then there's an AVO, then what happens? There's no support. Then to some extent, things don't change and the male comes back into, or the female, whoever it is, comes back. The cycle continues. They can't say anything, talked about shame, the gossip mill happens, and this then becomes another impact. So no one feels safe to talk about. And this becomes a never-ending vicious cycle that we're all in to some extent, and the community plays a part. So the fact that we've started having these conversations already, this is fantastic. As individuals, we're creating awareness, and on top of that, when we start having awareness, we have insight. Insight இருந்தா நாங்க என்ன செய்யலாம், எப்ப செய்யலாம், யாருக்கு போய் கதைக்கலாம், எங்க போய் கதைக்கலாம்னு நாங்க உணர்வோம், and therefore நாங்க செய்வோம். Thank you so much.
I just want to say, Vijay is here, is going to talk quickly about Tamil Safe Space, just a short one.
Thank you, Damayanti, for giving me the opportunity. I didn't come prepared, but having seen all of you, I thought of informing you about this new initiative. It is called Tamil Safe Space, and I would say it is the other side of Tadam. Tadam has been doing a lot of work on mental health, but they are online, and it is not a service provider. And Tamil Safe Space, we have been planning for the last 2 or 3 years. It is a drop-in center for Tamil people, not just Ceylon Tamils, Indians, Singapurian, Malaysian, any Tamils. And you don't even have to be Tamil. We are not going to turn anybody away. They can just come there, because a lot of families, the children, can't talk to their parents about their mental health issues. They don't think there is anyone listening to them or they will understand them. And because of that, the suicide level is very, very high in the youth. So this is a suicide prevention initiative where people can drop in and get non-clinical community support. Launching on the 3rd, and we'll be starting the services once a month to begin with, because this is new and we have to recruit volunteers to do this work with us, and all volunteers will get lot of training. So you won't be